week one of the men's VNL, we saw something that I was not expecting. 20-year-old Cole Hartke popped off for the United States, scoring 33 points in a reverse sweep over Canada. Hartke, only 20 years old, just finished his second year at Pepperdine University. He has previous experience with the USA U21 team, where he helped them to a gold at the North Sea Championships and then a bronze at the 2025 U21 World Championships. He was also an AVCA All-American this past year in the NCAA, leading the NCAA in both kills and points per set. He scored 452 points last season, averaging just about 4.5 points per set. Pretty crazy. So I will be breaking down his breakout performance against Canada, and I'm going to be doing it kind of on both sides. I'm going to be doing it, one, looking at Hartke and how efficient he is and how he moves and, how he scored 33 points. But then I'm also going to be looking on the side of Canada and what they did or didn't do to stop him from scoring 33 points. If you watched my breakdown on Team Canada after their first week, you'll know I wasn't too happy with their defensive performance throughout this match. And I will say, on one hand, I thought Hartke did an amazing job. He keeps things really simple. He has really good footwork. He swings high and hard. He's got really good vision. But at the same time, I don't think Canada really adjusted to that throughout the match. Now, I have gone through literally every single one of his ball touches, but I'm only going to be showing the ones he scored on. I'm not going to be showing, when he get dug or when he made any errors or anything like that. And I'm not even going to be showing all of them just in this for the sake of brevity and trying to keep things simple. But as I mentioned, this was just such a good performance by Hartke. So we have to break it down. So the first ball that he kills, actually the first ball of the game. It's a nice, really little rally between these two teams. And I won't go through every single rally, but I will for this one. And you'll see it right there. Just a nice little off-speed shot down the line. And already, let's look at how high he is contacting this ball. Hartke is 211 centimeters, which is 6'11". He is a big boy. He's from Illinois. We know they breed them real big out there, but yeah, he is a big man and he uses all of that length throughout this game. Now, the line shot and scoring down the line, especially when Landon Curry is there, is pretty rare for him. I'm pretty sure this is the only time he scored on Curry down the line all match long, and he just goes a nice little off-speed shot. I love the thumb down action on that. Curry is physically on his heels. He's waiting for something hard driven. It's not there, just drops in front of him. Nice first point by Hartke. Now, the next kill from Hartke is all the way at 17-11, and you'll see here kind of what I'm looking for from him. That's it. Like, as I mentioned, he gets dug down the line by Curry, and it's right here on that C ball. So as we bring it back to watch in slow motion, I really love his footwork here. He gets right back into position, and it's just going to be a quick one too, because he's going to hit that C ball, and he doesn't get all the way back, right? This is where he's going to be starting his approach from. So he's just looking for a two-footed approach, and he's going to manage that set really well from Andrew Rowan and just hit a flat ball over top of Jackson Howe. Now, this is where I'm going to start looking at where Canada's defense is being placed throughout this match, right? Stephen Marr is really high up, and you'll see where this ball ends up hitting him way above his shoulders. He's trying to play that ball behind him, and it goes out of bounds. Now, you kind of see it kind of catches Marr a little bit awkwardly on his left thumb, but it's just a good swing by Hartke. He kept it simple, swung nice and deep. This is kind of where Hartke started to open things up, because the next kill, right, it's now point 18, goes straight to Hartke. And I mean, that's just an absolute beauty over the top. He gets isolated. Danny Minenko thinks they're going to go outside to Cooper or in the middle to Ethan Champlin. And Hartke is just going to use all of that length and that space in front of him. He's going to go right down the seam and drop it right between Stephen Marr's legs. Now, that one I actually don't have a problem with. The block is open. There's a seam in the block. Hartke's going to be swinging hard. Would have been a tough ball to dig, especially how, low and in front is one of the toughest balls to dig, because you got to get real low to be able to get underneath it. And on a ball being hit that hard, it's going to be tough to do. But still, Great swing by Hartke. And now we've also seen 3 different shots from him, right? We've seen him go down the line. We've seen him go high over the block seam and then go low into the block seam. A couple plays later, he's going to get a ball in the C, and that's another one, right? So this is about as cross court as we're going to see Hartke go when he's hard driven. He generally hits into these seams here. Like, this is generally his power window, and that's where we're going to see the majority of the balls he hits land, right? It's going to be either that 1-6 seam or that 5-6 seam. And this is one where we're going to see on that 1-6 seam, straight in between Mar and her, just swinging high, hard, and deep, going right in between that Canadian defense. Tough to say. I'd like to see Mar get that one, but once again, it's pretty tough. Now, his last point of the first set is going to be a transition ball in the front row. Once again, he does such a good job of getting into position, right? The ball hasn't even touched the setter. He's already gotten to a spot. We've already established that he really doesn't need that much approach to hit the ball. And what he's going to do here is something he did all match long, and is just use the hands of Stephen Marr. And he's meeting Marr, who is a big blocker, right? Marr is a big 6'8" left side blocker, and he's meeting Marr at the top of his block, hitting that ball right into his hands, and it's going out of bounds. And we see that time and time again throughout this match. Now, the next 3 plays was defining for Hartke in this match. It was 17-10, and then U.S. closes that door quickly, partly because of these 3 blocks by Cole Hartke. So this first one, he just closes Lepke real hard. And I mean, look at the height of that block. Look at how straight his arms are. He's gone straight to the antenna and he's pushing inside. It's really textbook. That's a massive block there between Hartke and Merrick McHenry. Merrick McHenry is also a monster, and he had a great match as well, too, for the United States. But it's just this push that really takes so much space away from Eric Lepke. That's number one. Then we're going to see that basically the same play, almost carbon copy, sets a little bit off. And I've talked about, this sequence being a little bit situational. But, I mean, Her has all of his guys. Demyaneko's there. Mar is there. But he chooses to go back outside to Lepke. And it's a huge one-on-one slam by Cole Hartke. And what I really like was that, you'll have seen it just there. As you see, he's watching that ball, sees that it goes outside, and then bam, he switched his eyes to looking at Lepke. So he's got all that information he needs from the ball. Now he's looking at Lepke, and his feet are a simple 1-2. He's closing to the hitter. He's getting his right arm to the hitter, and then he's going to turn it back inside to take away that cross angle. You'll see here he's perfectly in line with Lepke. He could be a little bit more over to the right, but I love how disciplined his arms are. If we had the side view, you could see how much he's pressing over and really just taking away that angle from Lepke, and absolutely clamps him for his second block in a row. And it's basically going to be the same thing here to get this game at even. Another ball to the outside. This time, Lepke is going to try to go off speed, and Hartke is just up there, staying really disciplined. Big hands. And I mean, he technically does get tooled here because it goes off his elbow, but Hartke's so big, it catches Lepke on the way down for 3 straight blocks. And I just love how disciplined he is with his feet. And if you watch his feet here, ball gets set outside. He's nice and stable. He's starting to lean because, at this point he knows Demyaneko's down. There's no threat from the middle. He's not going to be helping on either the backside, on either of those backside sets. So he's already leaning to the outside, and it's just a quick crossover step. And he's completely square, right? His hips are square, his shoulders are square, and his hands are already pressed over the net. They're big and tall. He's not looking to slam block at all. He's just pushing them into Lepke's face. Absolutely textbook. And this is really where he starts heating up. And just another time. And, I talked about how frustrated I was with the defense by Team Canada, and this one is a perfect example, right? Mar is so high up. When you look at Canada's block here too, in my opinion, they do what they need to do. That's a big block there by Demyanenko and Lepke. Canada was the best blocking team in the VNL in week number 1. So Hartke only has that one shot, but because Mar is so high up, he's having to play that ball behind him on a back diagonal. Now, he did make a few digs on Hartke in this game, but it's generally when he was about a foot back and playing that 5-6 angle, because that's generally where Hartke was hitting on him. As you see, like Mar is having to reach behind him and all of his momentum's going back. Hartke is just going for that baseline. So the next two plays are actually like the two last line kills we've seen from Hartke. He's just taking this one straight on. He knows Demyanenko is down the line there. Canada's doing a really good job at taking his cross and giving him the line. Mar's big up there, so is Jackson Howe, and he just gets a big swing on Demyanenko. As I said, he didn't really score much when Curry was on that line, but had some luck when there was a middle playing defense again in front of him. And his next kill is actually going to be the exact same rotation, just a full rotation later. It's 30-29 for Canada at this point, and it's going to be a transition ball. And once again, it's just going to be a quick 1-2. And this one is a little bit frustrating because Demyanenko does get a touch on it, but Canada is unable to convert. It was just one of those frustrating times for Canada throughout this match where, that second ball, who's supposed to get it? I would love to see, her maybe with a little bit more urgency. That ball's going up. Xander thinks he's ready to transition, but on the other side, Hartke keeping his shoulders, just quick 1-2, right? Like, look how close he is to that attack line. He's sitting that C ball. Rowan does a really good job to get that ball outside, and it's just a quick 1-2. His shoulders are really squared up, so he's not hitting shots really, and he's just going to wait for that one to get to his right shoulder, line up, and crush it down the line. So the third set is really where he started to heat up. He had 7 kills in the third, 4 in the fifth. And I mean, this is when your mojo is going. Big far set. That ball is a little bit behind him. He just reaches straight up, uses his length. And I mean, everything from Hartke has been, out the back, right? Everything has been long so far. You'll see where Canada's defense is on Hartke. There's so much daylight on the outside of him. And this is a ball to me, like, Her needs to dig. It's half speed just in front of him. He can challenge for that ball, but he also wasn't expecting it because this is one of the few times Hartke goes off speed. I think it's actually the only time Hartke goes off speed to hit that ball into the pot. But it's just based off of how well, he's swinging for that ball. Just keeping it nice and simple, a quick 1-2. That ball is behind him, and he's just using that flick and that high reach. He's always touching so high, and that's one of the things I was most impressed by him by. Now he's in the front row, and he's just going to get a straight-up hit. I mean, that hit was his bread and butter, just going OT. Once again, Mar, not a small blocker in the slightest, and as I said before, this is his window. From the 5-6 seam to the 1-6 seam, that's where he likes to hit, and that's exactly where this ball goes. And I'll point out once again, where are Lepke's feet? He's so high up. I did a video review earlier in the season of Zerot Bank playing against Trentino. And Zerot Bank was a really, really good blocking team. And that's why you always saw Fornal and Klevno kind of be in this area here. By my count, throughout this match, Canada got beat more times by Hartke out the back, high off the block, than they did to dig him when he was hitting into the middle of the pot. Now, this one is a little bit more difficult because Curry does get a touch on it here, and Lepke, and it ends up hitting him in the shoulder, so it's just a bit of a bang play, but still it just shows like the amount of times he was going over top. I'll let the ones fall in the middle if you can dig the ones over the top, and it was just frustrating to see how many times he did it, but he was also doing it really, really well. So this is one where I talk about where I think his vision is really, really good, and how he just keeps the ball in front of him and just keeps it simple, because Demyanenko is trailing on this block. And as I've said before, we don't really see Hartke swing cross-court hard. And this is one of the few times he does. All because he sees Demyanenko is late on this block. He's going to try to go hard across the seam, hard across the court, all because Demyanenko is late on that block a little bit and uses the inside hands blockers. Really good vision by Hartke. So I lied. I said last point that he doesn't really swing cross court hard a lot, and this is going to be the only other time, as Canada does a good job. Howe and Mar are sitting right there, and Hartke has a bit of a different approach there, right? He's starting on the inside of the court, and he's going to come in a little bit on an angle where he's used to approaching that ball kind of straight on. And he is just going to swing this one hard to the side of the court, and we're going to see once again. Now, this one, it's tough. I know that, we haven't really seen him serve this sideline. Hindsight's 2020. You'd love to see Elgert maybe half a step back because he ends up playing that ball just behind him. But it is kind of, in his wheelhouse. Honestly, I might just chalk this one down to Elgert being a terrible defender. Max, no offense, even when in his Alberta days, he wasn't a great defender. I was actually talking to one of his former coaches about just that. And he was just like, that just may be the fact that Elgert is a lot of great things, but defending is not one of them. And speaking of poor defending by Max Elgert, this is another one. So if you watch Hartke here, he thinks that ball's for him, gets quickly outside into position, just another 1-2, swings hard at the block. And in my books, that should be a dig. It's a nice high block, but Elgert, as I mentioned, not the greatest defender, and you got a middle in Demyanenko in front of him. I think Demyanenko had a bit of a better ball, and that's just one of those lucky bounces when you're having a good game is going to fall for you, and that's exactly what was happening for Hartke in this one. So all tied up at 23-23 in the third, and honestly, this point was one of the daggers for Team Canada because they had been down previously 21-23 and then made it all the way back, and this is a ball that I think they had an opportunity to dig. Hartke does a good job. He's coming in on kind of that angle swing. He is just going to swing hard on the hand of the trailing outside blocker. And, Howe was doing a great job. And I actually like where Xander's defensively positioned here. He's a little bit further back. The block is covering essentially where that gap is. Mar's a little high up, but that's kind of what we see from him the entire time. Xander just gets a little too excited here on defense and goes down way too early. And it's just one of those things where everything else goes well for Canada, and then one part lets them down. But Hartke, once again, just continues to swing high and hard. Like, look at where he's contacting that ball. That's so ridiculous. He's so big, and he uses the full extension of his swing every single time. And it went from being a little bit of a Canada run to the U.S. closing it out 25-23. Now, into the fourth here, and something that's really interesting when I'm looking at Canada's defense is how tight this box is right now. Now, I'm wondering if it's because you've got Ma'a in the front row, and they're waiting for that setter's dump. They're waiting for that two ball to come in. And Ma'a does such a good job of just setting a little bit of a loop on the C ball to Hartke. It creates that gap in the middle, and he just slams it right down the gullet, right past Stephen Marr. And this one, I like, you can say that Marr is a little too far up, but that's such a fast set by Ma'a that, in slow-mo, you wish you could take a little bit more. But all he's able to do is square up to where that ball's coming to, and the ball's getting hit so hard, it's right there. And you can kind of see Marr just, apologize. But to me, this is just like the magic of Micah Ma'a for this one here, and Hartke having really good vision to go into the gap between the blockers. So this one we actually get to see Hartke's athleticism and footwork because it's just a broken play. He just gets up there on the two ball, swings high and hard. Those ones, sometimes you're going to get lucky and they're going to fall for you, and that's exactly what happened. But this is one of those plays in those big moments, and the U.S. had two really big comebacks in this match. The first one was in the second set that, was all off of Hartke's blocks, and this is the first half of that where Hartke gets this big broken play, and then he goes on this serving run, and this serving run, it's a bit of a dagger. He actually wasn't a great server throughout this match, but he's just is able to drop this one a little bit short because he does the exact same thing on the very next play, this time in front of Lepke. You can just see how tired Lepke is there. He should have come off, but we're not going to harp on it anymore. And it's funny because Dan Lewis even took a timeout here, and he was like, guys, this is what happens when you've got a big hitter who's starting to tire, right? He's not going to be hitting deep anymore. And that's exactly the case, but it brought basically the U.S. from down 14-10 to up 16-15. And he continued to pile it on here, too, for the U.S. with 2 more kills. And this is just going to be another one where, once again, he's just swinging high and hard over the top of that block. And it's going to go all down that 5-6 seam, right? This is his window right here. Marr and Elgert are super far up, and no one's going to be able to touch that ball with the current configuration on Canada's defense. And then 2 points later, we have basically the carbon copy of that play. He's just going to go up and go on that 1-6 seam. And it's just that high shot, he's so high, and it's going right between Elgert and Marr. Whether it's Elgert and Marr or her and Marr, it continues to happen where he's just hitting along that seam, dropping it to the baseline, and Canada's defense never adjusts. We're going to see 1, 2, 3. Howe is actually pretty deep. Actually, Marr is a little bit deeper on this one too. Hartke just does such a good job. And the reason for me it's frustrating from a Canada fan point of view is because the blocking actually is continuously good. Canada was the best blocking team in week 1 of the VNL. So he really doesn't have those inside side shots. And especially now because you can't throw it into the late trailing blocker. There's a lot less that's going to fall in kind of the middle of the court. So I'd love to see Canada, doing some classic old Glenn Hoag baseline defense and protecting the back line, protecting the shots that we can dig as opposed to the ones that we can't. Then to add insult to injury, he gets a really big block. And once again, you'll see how much he's pressing. So it's a bit of an off speed, but look at his arms and look at the press on that ball. I mean, him and McHenry, they just create such a big block. There's such little window for Lepke to go there. And he's going to try to go lefty down the line, but I mean, you can't see it really because of the angle, but he is contacting that ball a foot, maybe a foot and a half on Canada's side, which is completely legal just because of how good he is and how disciplined he is on his blocking. That's just a monster block by Cole Hartke. Now, as I mentioned, he had 15 points in the 3rd and 4th combined. He added another 5 in the 5th, and he starts things off with just another big slam on Lepke here, right? Just a one-on-one. He's so big. You can see how disheartened Lepke is after having to, hit up against this big 7-footer all match long. But I want to show you once again is his eye discipline, right? He's watching the ball, and then at that moment, he's knowing that it's only going out to Lepke, and he completely focuses in on Lepke, right? He's not watching the ball at all. He's just focused in on Lepke, and all of the information that he needs is getting from Lepke. So he's just going to go up. He's drifting a little bit. I mean, had Lepke chosen to go cross court, it would have been way better, and there was way much more room, but he tried to go over that shoulder and right into Hartke. But just look at that press. Holy shit. Just building a house over there on the right side. And at this point, we're just closing it out. Another high swing for him over the top. As I've said, he has kind of one window. It's going to go into that 5-6 seam or that 1-6 seam. He's just going to hit straight OT on Eric Lepke here. Marr just not in a position to be able to make that dig, having to try to play that ball behind him. Same thing on the next ball. He's just hitting high into the seam, challenging Marr's block, which he did so well all game. And once again, Canada's defense not in a position to make that play. There's almost 2 meters there between the sideline and their closest defender. He's doing a really good job of just attacking the blocker and putting that ball out of bounds, just out of the reach of her. And then to cap things off, he just gets a beautiful 1-0 here, right? just Ma'a completely fools the blockers, and he goes down the line. Blepke barely gets a touch on it, but that's enough to give Hartke the last of his 33 points. So as I mentioned at the top, I think Hartke did a really good job of just keeping things simple, right? He doesn't try to overcomplicate things. He doesn't try to make shots that he doesn't necessarily have. He's not trying, to hit it sideline to sideline. He's just keeping it within his window. And then on the flip side of that, Canada just really didn't adjust their defense. And now, I've talked to some people, about some of this video. I've shared some of my thoughts, and at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of teams play this type of defense. Trinity Western this year in U Sports won with this type of really high up defense. On the flip side, I've seen teams be really successful with a really far back, 6-back defense. And I think, situationally, they're both going to work, but I really would have loved to see Canada make that adjustment, because while Hartke was being really, really steady, had Canada made the adjustment in their defense, I think it would have been a lot easier for them to slow it down, and it may have been a different result. But regardless, 33 points in your debut is ridiculous. I need to see him do it again, though. I think Hartke has a really good future, but I need to see him do it again to really start building some momentum as potentially the guy who's going to take over the opposite for Team USA. But what do you guys think? Is Hartke the next guy up, or do you need to see a little bit more as well?